Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for the HHS Center for Faith and our March webinar that we're calling Relentless Faith and Fitness. On this webinar, you're going to hear from stories of lived experience of lives changed because of the connective tissue between physical activity and spiritual activity. The conversation comes at a moment that's really critical in our country. It's with a renewed focus on physical fitness. Last year, President Trump signed an executive order reestablishing the President's Council on Sports and Fitness and Nutrition. That action also reestablished the President's physical fitness test, which promotes the benefits of youth sports, physical activity, and healthy nutrition. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the focus from Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, who regularly challenges people to, including other cabinet secretaries, to see who can do more pull-ups. All this is an effort to get all of us across the country healthy again by increasing physical fitness and instituting good personal health habits. All this work kind of speaks to a truth that all of us know. Faith and fitness, they work hand in hand. And when they do, we will see America healthy again. So, someone who not only knows this, but lives it out is the director of the center, Dr. Monty Burks. As many of you may know, and others joining may not, Monty recently experienced a medical emergency. And doctors told him he would not be alive if not for his attention to physical fitness. But I don't want to steal any of that thunder. I don't want to steal any of that shine. So I want to welcome Dr. Monty Burks on to the webinar to give us a quick word about why this is such an important focus for him and why it's so important for him to focus and have us know why he cares about physical fitness. So Monty, we'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Nice bow tie, Ben. I appreciate the wonderful and kind intro. And as Ben mentioned, the national attention to physical fitness through the reestablishment of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition and the return of the presidential fitness test has really put an open eye and conversation in and around faith and fitness. Uh, Innovative goals for young Americans with the aim of fostering a new generation of healthy and active citizens is actually something that helps us forward healthy lifestyles and opportunities just to share across the spectrum of things that can help lifelong longevity and also to break generational cycles of unhealthiness. The order also calls for a nationwide movement and directs collaboration across public and private sectors to expand youth sports, promote physical activity and nutrition, and build a national culture focused on strength, health, and lifelong fitness. Fitness communities and faith communities are uniquely positioned to lead this work. When we talk about fitness today, especially with the renewed national focus through this council, we must broaden our definition of the word or the term athlete. Everyone doesn't play traditional sports. Some people climb trees, some people cut them down. Because when you teach someone how to take care of their body, you're not just teaching fitness, you're building confidence, resilience, and yes, purpose. My journey into jujitsu and mixed martial arts didn't start tidy or planned. After losing my father, my best friend, and the one who loved me, introduced me to combat sports and an ulterior level of combat and way to express my athleticism, I spiraled out of control. I tried to fill that void with the wrong people and made some of the wrong choices. I have a unique journey for freedom. I just recently celebrated 26 years free from life controlling issues. And I'm thankful for my martial arts lifestyle and my connection to my recovery community. I lost everything at one point. I slept in my car. And the hardest part is I wouldn't even tell people that I needed help because I was too proud to ask. But grace showed up. People reminded me that I was capable of more and handed me more than just a hug. They handed me a set of gloves and saying, here you go, try again. You belong here. The first day that I went into a mixed martial arts gym, I was knocked out by an older gentleman. He knocked me clean out, set me right on my tail. But instead of walking away embarrassed, I realized something. I didn't know everything, and that meant I still had room to grow. I was praying, reaching out, but I was asking people who didn't understand what I was going through. And when you're in that place, you can't always pull yourself up. But being introduced to a unique culture of people who I felt that I respected in a very different way than my normal culture of people, I could listen and get leadership and guidance. I'm a prayerful and a spiritual person, and the gym became part of my sanctuary. It was where I let it fly. For many years, I will put my faith and my energy not only in the pews of my sanctuary, but also on the mat, in the weight room, because those are places that I felt self. And there was enough time and enough space for me to process grief. Fitness was the bridge that led me back to a healthy community. Now, in case you didn't know, and Ben mentioned it earlier, I've survived 3 heart attacks. You heard that right. 3 heart attacks. The doctors told me I'm only alive because of what I've been doing. My heart stopped, but my body did not, because I've been prepared by years of training. I stayed online internally until the doctors could bring my heart back. I have a genetic flaw that I couldn't outrun. You can't outrun genetics, but my commitment to movement gave me a second, third, and fourth chance. This is the relentless nature of God's grace meeting human effort. I went back to the mats 3 weeks after my first stent collapsed, because movement is tied to my mental and spiritual survival. As a matter of fact, after those 3 weeks, I went to Las Vegas and competed in the Jiu-Jitsu World Masters tournament at the Las Vegas Convention Center. If you stop moving, your brain stops working. We must keep moving to stay ready for the mission. While exact statistics vary, surviving 3 severe heart attacks places me in a small subset of cardiac patients. I give all glory to God. My faith has been the anchor through every moment. Alongside that, my commitment to weight training, yoga, and jujitsu helped me prepare my body and mind to endure, recover, and keep showing up strong. People in the fight world used to call me relentless because I never stopped pressing forward, because I've grown, because I've grown. That word has taken on an entirely new meaning, because relentless isn't just about training, it's about the pursuit. It's about the pursuit of spiritual growth, healthy relationships, meaningful work, purpose, calling, and service. Fitness is a part of all of it, but it's not the whole story. You cannot separate them. I want to send a shout out to my friend Joe Adams. Along the way, I did a podcast with him on relentless faith and pursuit of all of your goals, and we had a really deep and unique conversation about how faith played a vital role in me realizing that that knockdown, that setback, was a setup for a comeback. As we look toward national initiatives like the Presidential Fitness Test, look at us and try to remember that we aren't just building stronger bodies. We're building a more resilient nation. Be relentless. Be relentless in helping people live well, relentless in helping people live whole, relentless in minding people that they still have purpose. But if I'm standing here today, after everything that I've been through, then I know this for sure. God is not done with any of us yet. And I want to say thank you to you all for jumping on this webinar today to hear from Matthew and from Whitney, because both of them have such an in-depth journey of how their faith has inspired their work, and how they take all of that good, wholesome leadership and give it to other people across the globe, anybody that wants it, and helps them be the next leader in their community to find out how faith and fitness can be a part of their purpose. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to my colleague, Ben Odell. I look forward to hearing this awesome conversation today. And Ben, I appreciate you, my friend.
Monty, we appreciate you. I know that I speak for a whole lot of people across the country joining us today and watching this recording online, that we are grateful that you're still here. And being relentless across all this work, leading policy and coordination of the work of the HHS Center, and really helping talk to us about this important message of connecting faith and fitness. So thanks for living that out. Thanks for being a living testimony to this work. And I want to thank everybody who's joining us today to hear a little bit more from some other people who also have living testimonies, who also have amazing stories to share with us, similar to the one Monty just shared with us. So the first story we're going to hear is from Whitney Weiser Savage, who hails from the great state of Tennessee. She is an entrepreneur, an IFBB pro athlete, and an Olympian, an NPC judge and promoter. And on top of all of that, she's a certified trainer and nutritionist. Her organization, which is called Weiser Prep, and she is going to discuss how her story starts with bodybuilding, gets derailed by an accident, and that leads her to how her faith, Christian faith, gives her credit with helping her return to competitive athletics. So we're going to watch a video from Whitney first, and then we're going to hear from her after that. So Clintandra, let's start that video now.
I started my competing journey in the fitness industry in 2009. By 2011, I was competing on national level stages all over the country. By the end of 2011, I was laying in a hospital bed being told by doctors I may never walk again, much less ever compete again, and that I needed to mentally prepare for that.
Today, new information regarding an incident at the Dell plant. A man facing attempted homicide charges accused of intentionally hitting 24-year-old Whitney Weiser with his SUV and leaving the scene. The suspect saying he wanted to meet with Weiser, who wanted to end their relationship. When she tried to leave, police say he intentionally ran her down with his SUV. Weiser remains in critical condition at Vanderbilt Medical Center with extensive injuries. The victim releasing a statement to the judge saying, "I know he may be in jail only for a few years, but I am going to have back pain for the rest of my life."
Competing and fitness became the only thing that I cared about. This was my pathway to redemption, and not letting this determine me or my life.
All right, now we only got to do 5 going back up. Oh, yeah, come on. Make it tight.
It wasn't just about winning anymore to me. It was about getting back everything that had been taken away from me. Finally, in 2014, it all paid off. By 2016, I find myself standing on the Olympia stage, competing with the best pro athletes in the world. And I'm looking out over the crowd thinking to myself, I made it. I'm so grateful that I never gave up and I never listened to what anybody else said I was capable of. I trusted in God and I followed my passion and I found my purpose. This is my why. Thank you guys so much for letting me be here today and sharing a little bit of my story with you. So as you can probably imagine, that was a season of my life where I had to rebuild everything. My body, my strength, and especially my mind. And what I realized, although I didn't realize it until way later, but in that season, I could not have separated my faith from my fitness and still have been successful, because the two together are what actually rebuilt me. And at that point in my life, when that happened, I was a very broken 24-year-old girl who didn't really know who she was or who God was. Even though I grew up with religion, I didn't grow up with a relationship with God. So I just had started developing a relationship with God right before that happened. And I'm so grateful that I did, because throughout that recovery process, I really leaned into my faith in Him a lot more and really developed a stronger relationship with God. So that video was great. It's my story in a nutshell. You can see how impactful it is, but it leaves out the middle, the struggle part, right? You see the happy ending, and it does have a happy ending, but what was left out is the middle, like the years of just uncertainty and having to rebuild. Right after I had my back surgery, I had to go live with my parents for a couple months. Because I couldn't even walk by myself. I had to rely on my parents or someone to take care of me. And I couldn't really do anything except sit around and think all day, every day. So after a couple weeks, when I could start to stand by myself again and take a few steps, that's all I would do. I would take 10 steps, sit back down for a while, and then try to get up again and take 11 or 12 steps the next time. It was a very, very slow process. Eventually I worked up to being able to walk outside down my parents' driveway and eventually down the street and then around the neighborhood block. So at the time, I didn't even know what visualization or anything like that was, but I was instinctively using it as I was growing my relationship and faith with God without really knowing what I was doing. I couldn't even drive again yet, but I'd walk around the block dozens of times a day using visualization, just picturing myself back up on stage, like like very vividly going through the mandatory poses and the comparison lineup with the other competitors, my name getting called out and awarded as the winner. Day after day I did this. I walked and I visualized myself back on stage. So as I was very slowly rebuilding my body and my strength back, I was rebuilding my mind, and not just with motivation, but with truth and with who God said that I was. So I'd read books like Battlefield of the Mind and Power Thoughts by Joyce Meyer, to learn how to maintain a right attitude, how to set your mind and keep it set, renewing your mind, believing for the best, and so many more concepts that I didn't even know about at the time. Reading about how we are more than conquerors through him who loved us, Romans 8:37. So I didn't just rebuild my body, I rebuilt my identity through faith, and that's why it worked. I wouldn't have been able to rebuild my body if I would have kept believing the old lies about me, my past, and my future. Because when your identity is rooted in fear and insecurity, then you train or you perform from a place of pressure or trying to prove something. But when it's rooted in truth, you train from a place of purpose. And when you come that close to losing your ability to walk, you don't ever take it for granted again. To me, movement is a gift, weight training is a gift, and really, weight training is a necessity to living a full and abundant life. So at first, I was building my body back to prove something, just to prove that this wasn't going to stop me. But as time went on and I got my strength back, and more importantly, my faith was strong, I knew God really, I knew who he had made me to be, and I was starting to see that. And so I started building from a place of purpose. And after a few years, I accomplished everything I ever dreamed of in the bodybuilding world and more. I became a pro athlete. I made it to the best stage in the world with the best athletes in the world. Um, but then after a while, I started thinking more outside of myself. And then God gave me a vision for an all women's competition, which did not even exist at this time. And that led me to create the NPC IFBB Nashville Fit Show with the mission of inspiring confidence and strength among women through fitness. So this gives women their own space to connect and celebrate each other and what we've overcome, just renewing our strength, giving each other hope, because obviously I know what it feels like to be disconnected, and I know what's possible when women rebuild themselves the right way, and not just physically but mentally. So then I started coaching women, and not just competition prep and not even just fitness coaching, because your physical condition is usually a byproduct of your inner condition. So finding alignment and purpose beyond yourself is always the key. And thinking about, okay, what did God create you to be, and who did he create you to be, and finding your passion and your purpose in life, like what your gifts are. Because whatever your gifts are, I feel like it's our responsibility to find out what they are and then develop them to use, because our gifts aren't for us, they're for other people, they're to share with the world. But if you're not strong enough physically or in your faith, you will not be able to fully fulfill the calling on your life. So you have to have both. Um, and then with that realization, I started hosting women's retreats, and this is just another way to create spaces for women to really connect and discover their God-given identity, and then to walk in their calling. So fitness strengthens your body, but faith anchors your identity. And your faith and your fitness journeys will strengthen one another to make you stronger on all levels. So when you build both together, you don't just transform physically, you become unshakable and can walk fully in the purpose that God created you for. So thank you so much for allowing me to share a little piece of my story and my journey and my mission with you guys today. Back to you, Ben.
Whitney, such an amazing, powerful story. I heard so many great parts about how faith and fitness not only builds us up, but it sends us out. It connects us with other people and asks for other people to come on this journey with us and invites people into that. But I also heard how fitness builds up the body, but spirituality builds up your person of who you are, and how all of that sets a foundation for so much more, for so much more. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We're going to come back and do some questions with Whitney here in a second, but I'm excited for you to not just hear this story and not hear my story, but also Matthew's story. Matthew Gay is the owner and CEO of the Christian Health, and he's a fitness coach with Fit Church in Virginia. Matthew was also in an accident that was bad enough that he had to learn how to walk again. But with his recovery, his fitness journey didn't really hit high gear until he connected it to his spiritual journey. And so we're going to hear from Matt. We're excited to hear from you, Matthew, about your story. I want to invite you into this conversation and tell us about how you're also helping others to think about how fitness is a key part of how they can live, both be healthy and live out their faith too.
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you guys for having me. I see some of you guys putting hand claps and hearts and whatnot in the chat here, and I want to encourage you put a heart or a one or something in the chat if you've ever prayed to God about your health. I do want to tell you a little bit about my story. In 2009, yeah, a lot of you guys, yeah, I think that's most of us here. At some point, you've prayed to God for your health. And in 2009, my fiance at the time, she's now my wife, she cried out to the Lord on behalf of my health, and He answered. And so, real quick, the car accident that I was in, we were in a van coming back from a business trip in New Jersey at the time. This was in 2009 again, and we're going up the Roth Bridge in Delaware. The van is breaking down, and we're going at probably about 20 miles per hour, just trying to get up and over the bridge. And so we're trying to get over into the shoulder so that we can, kind of get up to the top and then coast down the other side. And AAA was going to meet us on that other side. Well, before we could get up and over the bridge, an 18-wheeler hit us going about 65 miles per hour and killed the girl that was sitting behind me instantly. Fractured 4 vertebrae in my spinal cord, lacerated my spleen and liver, and almost completely broke my pelvis in half. It severely injured pretty much everybody in the van. There was 5 of us there. But that accident, it taught me 2 valuable lessons. In fact, I would say that God taught me 2 valuable lessons that day. One is that no day is promised, not even the day that you're currently in, because nobody was expecting that to happen that day. And Ashley, the girl who lost her life, she was expecting to get home just like everybody else. And the second is that your current measure of health at any time is a gift. It's not at all a right. It's a gift. So I would say that my fitness journey, because I wasn't a healthy kid really growing up, I was one of the larger kids growing up, didn't have a great relationship with food. But my fitness journey started with physical therapy, honestly, even though I didn't really know it at the time. I didn't know that's what was happening or what God was doing, but I gained an appreciation for fitness and its ability to heal and restore your body through physical therapy. About 9 months after this accident, I found myself 7-inch rod in my pelvis now. Still smoking cigarettes. I was smoking cigarettes when that happened, and I was still smoking cigarettes then. I was eating fast food almost daily. And I really didn't have a relationship with Jesus, even though, just like Whitney, I had grown up in the church. Then in 2010, so this is the very next year, God's got a sense of humor. He places me at a gym selling memberships. And honestly, that changed my life. The atmosphere had changed and it caused me to see myself differently. And so I began my own personal fitness journey. By 2015, my life had been completely transformed, both by God and my fitness journey. And I actually become a personal trainer and I started helping other people do the same. I was attending a church and was regularly attending that church. I was a follower of Jesus. But one of the issues was I realized, again, my mind is around health and fitness now, being a personal trainer, having transformed my own life and seeing the value in that. I realized that at the church that I was at, there was a strong absence of fitness there. We had plenty of potlucks. We had, plenty of unhealthy food at all of our events. But we didn't have anything that was helping people to get healthier. And again, being a personal trainer at the time, I realized, well, I had something that the church needed. And I don't think I had ever realized that fitness was something that the church might have needed. It was always separate. And again, growing up in the church, nobody ever really talked about health and fitness. A lot of the folks growing up in church the adults were pretty out of shape, and it seemed like whenever we did eat, it wasn't really stuff that we should have been eating. I didn't think about it at the time, but when I looked back, I realized, man, there doesn't really seem to be much of an emphasis or care for health and fitness in the church. And so, as a new real believer, I didn't really put those two together. But I did notice that there was an absence there and that there was a need. There was a lot of people sick, a lot of people going up for altar calls, asking God for prayers or asking people for prayers to God about healing and restoration and different illnesses, many of them which were chronic illnesses that had been brought on through poor health habits. I realized that there was a need for what I had. And so I went to the pastor and asked if I could start hosting a weekly class on Saturdays. And he said yes, he loved it, loved the idea, and it grew. It became a side door ministry there at the church where I was serving members there, but people were bringing their friends and relatives, and people from the neighborhood were coming to workouts with us, both inside the church and in the parking lot. And for about 5 years, I consistently hosted that weekly workout at my church, along with doing some educational workshops. But I wasn't content with only my church benefiting from that. I knew that there were thousands of churches out there that needed that same kind of help. Not just that there were people who needed fitness, but also people that needed a biblical approach to health and fitness because the world has its own way of teaching health and fitness. So I began reaching out to pastors and churches, just offering, free faith-based fitness workshops and offering to do one of my fitness classes. And man, with the level of indifference and ignorance towards health and fitness being a necessity in the church, it just led me to realize that there was a gap between faith and fitness in the minds of most believers, certainly in the leadership, but also obviously in their lay members and people that were sitting under their teaching and leadership. So I basically sat down to write out a biblical case for healthy living in the life of a Christian, right? A biblical case for health and fitness in the life of a Christian. The book is called Fit Church. It's right here. It looks like this. It's on Amazon. And the subtitle is Destroying the Division Between Following Christ and Living a Healthy Life. What I am doing now is working towards equipping 1,000 churches with fitness ministry leaders who have the resources, the training, the community, the support to launch and run effective fitness ministries that simultaneously guide people towards Christ and better health. And I'm trying to do that all by 2028. That's my goal, is 1,000 churches. But here's why, and I hope that you'll lean in here because I want to give you some of what I'm teaching and the basis. I want to raise your level of conviction in this area of your life because it can be pretty shallow. It can be pretty vain. It can be pretty empty. We can know at face value. We can know to a degree. But I want this to hit a deeper level. In the Old Testament, there's this word, shakah, and that word is commonly interpreted as worship. We see it for the first time in Genesis 22, verse 25, where Abraham says he and his son Isaac are going to worship before, honestly, he's about to go and do one of the greatest acts of faith any father could ever be asked to display. You guys, certainly I encourage you to go read the story if you haven't already there. But this is to sacrifice his son, and this is a sacrifice that God knows all too well because he did the same for us. Shakah means essentially to bow down, to fall prostrate, to lower yourself in order to elevate someone you are acknowledging as superior to you. And the concept of fitness in our day and age has been overtaken by a societal mindset that instead of worshiping God, obviously, what it glorifies image, it prioritizes perception, right? And we love social media for the likes and loves that it can give us. And honestly, this mindset even it warps our worship. That's what sin does. It redirects our worship away from God, who it was intended for, to something else. And you guys know this just as well as I do. We're going to worship something, right? Sin warps our worship, and our day and age in this time that we're living in, we see that fitness has kind of fallen right into that, where everything that we do, we end up doing for our bodies, worshiping an image, worshiping acceptance, worshiping worldly ideologies um, through our daily practices. I mean, let's face it. When you think of health and fitness, that's eating, that's sleeping, that's exercise, that's stress management. That's a pretty decent amount of your day. If all of that is catered towards worshiping the wrong thing, it's going to drain you and it ends up being very empty. It's a missed opportunity because we were meant to direct that worship towards a loving God who cares for us and who inhabits our praise and our worship. Um, so we either end up worshiping the wrong things or we end up completely neglecting our God-given image. Poor health choices, end up being a part of our daily routine that lead to these self-induced illnesses. And then we ask God to deliver us from them, right? And so we can see how our warped worship, either we are worshiping comfort or we're worshiping self in a sense. And rarely do churches spend any real time helping Christians to understand the application of biblical principles in the context of stewarding these bodies. Again, I grew up in the church and spent many years in the church, was in a band and went to various many churches and whatnot. Rarely, if ever, was fitness talked about, certainly from a biblical perspective. If anything, it was kind of a laughable topic where there was a joke about donuts or Golden Corral or overeating in some way. But an emphasis, a calling to live a healthy life for the glory of God was rare, if ever, the occasion. But our stewardship of the body is so significant. Our bodies are recorded in Scripture as being created by God and for God. Our stewardship of the body is actually meant to be reverential care for what truly belongs to God. And unfortunately, many treat our bodies as though they belong to us, right? And that's where for a lot of us, that's where the issue lies. A lot of the struggling to be consistent on the health journey, a lot of the all or nothing mentality of rigid dieting and then eating whatever you can find. A lot of this wrestling that we deal with is because we're worshiping the wrong thing. Our striving, our toiling, all of our effort is directed at the wrong thing. It's directed inwardly, or maybe at a scale, or maybe at the mirror, or maybe at what people will think about us, rather than to the God we are supposed to be living for. It's in Him that we live and move and breathe and have our being. Amen. Right? A biblical approach to health and fitness keeps Christ at the center where He belongs. Nutrition stays relatively simple when we do it His way, and our health habits remain worshipful and far more fulfilling. So my plea to Christian Americans and to Christians abroad is not necessarily that we would pray more and eat less, though that may be necessary for some, but that we would pray more and present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is our spiritual worship, as Romans 12:1 tells us. We all who have chosen to follow Jesus have been called to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow Him. And I see where maybe that causes some confusion. How am I to deny myself and also take care of my body? Right? And then we've been called to a great commission that still stands. And we need our bodies for that. As Paul puts it in Romans 6:13, I think he makes it pretty simple. He says, "Do not present your members to sin as instruments for unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and your members to God as instruments." That means like tools for righteousness. So I leave you with this. A healthy lifestyle for any Christian must be primarily about the creator, owner, healer, provider, and redeemer of our bodies, not as a means of glorifying ourselves, but as a practice of reflecting His glory in our day-to-day lives. And to that end, I just want to quote 1 Corinthians 10:31, which says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." Thank you, guys.
Matthew, you've got people in Zoom looking for an amen emoji.
Come on, there's an amen emoji. Come on,
we
Apple.
gotta bring it. We gotta bring it, right? I heard health is a gift, not a right, right? And we have a responsibility to honor the gifts that we receive, right?
Amen.
And then also just that with fitness has been warped if we don't also think about our hearts as a part of that fitness, right? Getting our hearts healthy.
Yeah.
And not just our physical heart, but our spiritual heart as well, right? Like our hearts has got to be in the right spot so that we
Yeah.
kind of move this whole thing forward in healthy and appropriate ways. I heard that in all of our stories today, and so I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Hey, I want to invite, thank you so much, all three of you, for coming back here for a quick chat. I want to invite you each to kind of reflect. What are some things you heard that were similar in Whitney and Monty and Matthew's story for each of you that kind of resonated with your own unique personal experience and that, like, kind of helped you see something about yourself, maybe too, as a part of what you heard in somebody else's story? Monty, you want to start us off?
Oh, absolutely. So first, I want to say thank you to Whitney and Matthew because you just reminded me of how important it is to live and walk our faith in our fitness journey. So to hear both of you have unique stories, I know Whitney and I've heard her story before, and the magnificent power that she puts out and she displays for other women helps them empower themselves to be champions at so many things. And then also with you, Matthew, you kind of and expounded the same thing is when we do it for the right reasons and we understand our purpose, we can not only use it to magnify our faith, but we can also help other people find freedom from life controlling issues. And eating disorders, lack of ability to work out. Sometimes people think they're trapped. In reality, they're trapped in an open cage. They don't know that they can just take a step forward and walk. You know what? In my early career, in my early mixed martial arts career, I took a leap of faith, jumped in the cage when it was first legalized in Tennessee. In 2008, I was Tennessee's first lightweight champion. I won a championship. I got in the ring, and when I won, the first thing I said is, I want to give glory to God. The reason I said that because I can remember being rock bottom, laying down, asking God, "What do you want me to do?" And I can remember clear as day that God said, "Stand up and walk. Put up your mat and walk." And
Yeah.
it made so much sense to me as a person that had lived in combat sports. And I wanted to carry that message. And here I am 20 some odd years later, sitting with two people that have carried the same message to two entirely different groups of people. I've visited, Matt, I looked at Fit Church United. I went on Whitney's, I've been to one of Whitney's shows. I've seen women that would have never thought in the world that they could stand on a stage and be acknowledged for their perseverance and the power that they command. So that's how I want to answer that question, and also want to acknowledge that a near-death experience gives you an opportunity to get closer to God. When you're
Yeah.
stripped of everything you have but your last breath, it makes you communicate so much clearer. And I know both of you have experienced that in your own right. So thank you, Ben, for asking that question.
Yeah, Whitney, go ahead.
Um, yeah, Monty, everything you just said is awesome. And Matthew, I didn't know that you also had to learn how to walk again. So we definitely have that in common. But yeah, when you have a near death experience, and for me, like, just I'm just so thankful that I can walk because it could have so easily been taken away. I mean, my life could have been taken away, but also my ability to walk and do so many things. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just we all have similar stories, and it's just so crazy to think that, yeah, we are all facing, pretty much rock bottom, and God is the only thing that'll get you through. Like, motivation will only last for so long. If you're trying to rebuild yourself physically, you have to have more than that. And having, faith in God, we're all very similar in that regard. So I just think it's awesome.
Yeah,
So
Matthew,
Yeah.
over to you.
Yeah, something that I noticed in all of our stories is that there was a paradigm shift, right? And God will use an encounter, use a moment, a traumatic moment for many of us, a drastic moment, to wake you up, to say, hey, like, and I think back over my life, and God tried to get my attention a lot of times, to be honest. And I called out when I needed something, but it wasn't serious. And then there's this moment, by the grace of God, he allows something that you would never ask him for and certainly did not pray for to happen to you. He in his love, being a really good father, which I can imagine, Whitney, God watching that happen to you. I mean, he watched his own son be killed, and I can imagine that he was mourning that. um, because I know his heart for his people, and it certainly that did not line up with his heart at all. But allowing that to happen, allowing what the enemy meant for bad to turn around and cause so much good in each of our lives, that is just the hand of God. His ways are above our ways, right? His thoughts are above our thoughts. And I think of, I just want to encourage people to think of the hard things that they've been through, maybe the hard thing that they're going now, as being possibly God's grace, which is really hard in the moment to see it that way. But God is so good. He knows what you need, not now, but in the future, and He will use things to build you up. And so, yeah, I think right now, it's a good opportunity to reflect on how God will use your life to change your life, the hard things in your life to change your life. And when it comes to marrying faith and fitness together, I had you guys raise a one or heart in the chat. He's brought you through some stuff, right? You asked for healing, you asked for restoration. He gave it to you. How are you using that? How are you thanking him with that? How are you responding to him answering your prayer with yes?
Making use of that gift, right? Making use of the gift of wellness, making use of that walking, making use of that another day that you get, right? How does it
Yeah.
keep moving? Well, let me wrap up here with the one more question. We have a lot of leaders from houses of worship and faith-based organizations who are either watching it with us right now or watching this online. Some houses of worship have people focused on care ministries, on even faith health nurses that are parts of and faith-based healthcare services that are on campuses. We just have leaders, right? Who, Matthew, you kind of pointed out, sometimes we haven't heard about this message as much from some of our leaders. So for each of you, what would you want to encourage faith communities and specifically their faith leaders to think about as we think about kind of helping facilitate more and more people have a relentless focus, a relentless attention to the intersection here between faith and fitness? Matthew, I'm going to switch it up and come and have Monty speak last. So, kind of again, what would you want faith leaders to kind of take on as a part of this webinar and joining us today?
Yeah, from my side, being a health and fitness coach, a personal trainer online and in person, I hear every day, right, about the struggles that people are facing in their bodies and how that's affecting their daily life, their parenthood, their jobs, their finances. Please know that the people you are leading, not only you know that they have bodies, but that the condition that their bodies are in are affecting their daily lives. And I know that as a faith leader, you're a shepherd, right? And you're called to feed the flock. So that's teaching, right? Primarily, right? And there's various sources of support, but all and guiding your flock. But they have bodies that a lot of them are holding them back, are hindering even their witness, hindering their ability to do the things that Bible instructs them to do. And then I want to encourage you to be a voice of reason in this regard, to encourage good health practices, first with your own life and practice, and then also with your admonition of that, right? Call them to live healthy lives, not for some worldly reason, but for the glory of God, so that they can be able-bodied servants for God's good work that He's prepared in advance for them to do, is what the Bible tells us. If you can find somebody who will kind of lead in this way regarding health and fitness in your church and start a fitness ministry, entertain that idea. And if you don't know how to go about that, that's exactly what I help people to do.
Thanks, Matthew. And you're talking about it from the Christian tradition, but we encourage people from the Muslim tradition to find those backgrounds and the Jewish tradition and all the different religious traditions that are part of our united country and the faith makeup. Each of these communities have the opportunity to bring in, draw in, and pull in those religious perspectives that help us inform that our bodies are something we need to take care of as well. So thanks so much for that, Matthew. Whitney, your encouragement or word to faith leaders as they think about this focus and how it would make sense for them.
I mean, similar as what Matthew said, but just don't overlook your physical body and your health and your fitness. sometimes you might think you're under spiritual attack and you might just be dehydrated. You might just need to drink some water. So don't overlook that. And just like it's our moral obligation, and to God, to society, the people we're called to help, to be physically fit, because it will affect our daily lives if we're not drinking enough water, or if we're not strong enough to get through the day, or fueling our body and mind with nutritious food. We'll have the 2 p.m. crash. We won't make it through the day, and we need to be strong in order to fulfill anything that God's called us to do. So drink your water, eat whole food, and move your body.
I'm taking advice right now. I'm drinking water right now to make sure I'm ready to wrap this up. There goes my, hey, everybody, drink some water. There we go, right? Take a breath, drink some water, take care of yourself. Monty, I want to give you the last word. Bring us right home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first, again, Matthew, Whitney, thank you for being on here with me. You have encouraged me and reminded me of why we add faith and fitness to our journey. One of the things that really stood out to me, and something that I want to carry with everyone, is both of you said it. We've all said it. You don't have to really be a professional at anything to take one step forward, to try. And sometimes people just need to be reminded. One of the questions in the chat was around the role of a faith community nurse. Not everybody knows what that is. And there are people in the faith community that carry the role of RN, BSN, NP, PRN, all the different acronyms. I don't know what they quite all mean, but I know that they're professionals in the healthcare space. But last week, I ended up on, in the receiving end in the hospital looking for a resource. And a lady that was clearly from the faith community put her hands on me and prayed with me in a very hard moment for me, because I come to the realization that I am sometimes vulnerable. Sometimes, no matter how much of a Superman I thought I was, there's still a vulnerability. But she put her hand on me and she prayed with me. And right then she caught me. She disarmed the man for a minute and reminded me that I was a child of God and that there was something better for me. And this is a powerful example of how important it is for every walk of life to be prepared to intersect with each other, because that's technically what we do. Every professional walk, every workout, every restaurant you come into, you can bear witness to someone the power of freedom. So when someone might be trapped in an unhealthy eating lifestyle, they might have a gambling disorder, they may have an addiction, they might need mental health therapy. These are all things that are part of physical wellness and fitness. They're all a part of this unique chess game that's being orchestrated inside of our mind. I think that we as a community need to always intentionally remind each other that you can do better, not be in a seat of judgment, but be in a seat of helping someone perform better. I think Matthew and Whitney, that's where we are different in the world, in the sports world, is I don't put you in the gym to judge you. I put you in so you can judge yourself and you can move forward. You can set your own standards and goals. Yeah, I'm gonna push you and I'm gonna nudge you a little bit, but I'm gonna remind you. And then the last thing I want to say is I'm a person that I identify as a person in long-term recovery. And I want to say this to everybody: go help your people. That's as Southern as I can get. Go help your people. If you got a community of people that you lead, that follow you, that listen to you, if you can post up on social media, post a workout, post a water diet, post whatever you want that could lead someone to a healthier lifestyle. There have been many opportunities, and many times I've seen where someone in a position that didn't realize they were in a leadership position done something, and somebody else watched them. And I'll leave this example. I have a friend of mine, she does CrossFit. I looked in a video she had in the background. Her little girl, who was probably 3 or 4, had a fake barbell standing behind her mama, putting it up over her head. And I said, okay, she's teaching her daughter indirectly the fitness world. And so these are things that we just have to be mindful of and continue to do. I'm a child that was raised in Sunday school. My mother taught me the value of, we call it pre-church, to get pre-blessed. My mother also played the piano at church. So I went in early, got the message, got the word, went home, felt fulfilled. I think we need to remind people that we can also do that in the fitness space and add our faith to it. And with that, Ben, I'm going to turn it back to you again. Thank you, Matthew and Whitney. We're going to further this conversation as we expand the concept of faith and fitness. It just started today. We're going to take that somewhere entirely different with your leadership and also with your partnership. So I thank you again. And Ben, I'll turn it over to you.
Whitney, Monty, Matthew, thank you so much for not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. that you all embody this language of the connection between faith and fitness, how they're integrated, and help us start this conversation well, that we want to steward and curate as a part of making America healthy again, that we know that the heart, both spiritually and physically, are so important to this journey. So thank you so much for giving us these words and remarks. So I want to honor and appreciate that. I also want to take the end of this webinar to let you know our next webinar is coming up in April. And we're excited that April is Second Chance Month, a month that we can recognize and celebrate the important work being done in the reentry community as individuals return from incarceration and build back into their communities in meaningful and important ways. Our webinar is going to be titled From Incarceration to Integration, the role of faith in successful reentry. We hope you'll mark your calendars for Thursday, April 30th, and make sure that you're able to join us to participate in that conversation. If you're within the reach of this voice, I want you to, if you have a story of reentry, like you've heard a story of faith and fitness today, let us know your story and the way in which you're incorporating back into your community. Send us an email at faith@hhs.gov so that we can honor, celebrate, and participate in that conversation. We'll use that webinar to kind of wrap up mental health or reentry month, and we'll be excited to join you as a part of that conversation. So save the date, April 30th. We'll be coming together to wrap up the end of Second Chance Month. Until then, until next month, stay strong, keep working out all of these things that we've talked about, and we will join each other together again to talk about more ways that faith communities are integrating and connecting into the important work we're doing across communities to serve people in need. Until then, take care. We'll see you soon.